Being a mom is hard. Being an entrepreneur is hard. Being a mom who is an entrepreneur is really hard. With me in this awesome series called So You Want to Start a Business is my wonderful friend, Laura Benson. Laura is the owner of Philly Flair, an online boutique that she's built up to be a multi-million-dollar brand. She also owns other businesses and products on top of that. Plus, she's a wife, she has 2 kids at home, and she is 6 months pregnant. So maybe to start, let me just bow down.
Whatever. Thank you.
So, Laura, this video specifically is going to be the top tips on how to build a business as a mom, because it's tough, right?
It is.
It's really tough. So I'm so excited to get some advice from you today, get some wisdom, and have you share with all the ladies. To start, how in the world do you have the energy to do it all?
Well, thank you. So there's a couple things I've learned that, number one, if I don't take care of my body, if I don't nourish it properly and move my body, I don't have the energy. I heard a quote a couple years ago that said, a power plant doesn't have energy, it makes energy.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. So I feel like the times I'm most tired is usually when I just need to move, or I need to really reassess, do I need to get caught up on sleep? So there's a couple things. Nourishing my body is huge, and it's not about being skinny. It's about really, when you have a lot going on, when I want to be present for my kids and my business, I have to make sure I'm properly feeding myself. And when I eat junk, I can tell it immediately the difference. So that is huge. And then also there is probably at least once a month where I don't have the energy. And I think I've learned that that's totally okay. And I take a mental break. I take a social media break for sometimes it's a few days, and I just kind of fall off the grid. I'm home with my kids. We live on a farm. And I really need that mental capacity to kind of unwind in order to be my best self.
Yeah. And I think that's so good because I feel like a lot of times as moms, we tend to put everybody in front of us, right? But you can't be your best self unless you take care of yourself too. I remember one time at church, the pastor said that he watches over himself first so then he can take care of everyone else. And that seemed kind of radical to me because I was like, whoa, you're a pastor. Like you should put everyone before you, but you can't do it, right?
You can't. And I have really learned that. Like I need an hour to myself in the morning. I purposely get up earlier before my husband and my children, now that they're old enough. And I have to move my body. I have to get on a treadmill. I have to do some type of movement. And it starts my day on the right foot. It centers my mind. And then when my kids wake up, no matter what's happening, no matter what kind of rush we're in, I am level-headed and ready for the day.
Yes. And then have you ever felt like you're going through a period of time in your life where you were failing or falling behind in a certain area? Like you felt like you weren't able to show up for your kids the way you wanted to because work was too crazy, or you felt like you were falling behind in work because there's so much stuff going on at home. And when that happens, what do you do?
Yes, 100%. That's very normal. So there's a couple things. I think there are seasons in life, and I think being both, like the best of everything, is like a magical unicorn. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be okay with seasons of your life. So if you're starting something, you have to know that there's going to be a time that you have to dedicate more time, resources to a project or a business, whatever those things are. But then you have to be okay completely setting it aside and going back to your family. When Charlie, my daughter, was a baby, she went with me to work the first year of her life. And by the time she was a year old, she was walking and running all over in the warehouse. And it dawned on me one day, I was getting really frustrated, and I realized that I was not really present with her because I was trying to work at home. And then when I would have her at work, I wasn't really present for my employees, and I was trying to make sure she wasn't tearing stuff apart. And it finally dawned on me one day that I was really doing a disservice to both. And it was better for me to actually bite the bullet, hire a babysitter, and be really present. So I was really present at work, and I could really get my stuff done while I was there. And then I could shut it off, go home, and be really present with my daughter.
Yeah, it's true. Like you really just need extra help.
Yeah.
If you have the dream and the desire to do both. Because like kind of what you said, you can do both, but it's just not going to be easy every day.
It won't be. And I think you'll find yourself, there's going to be seasons you have to. I'm not saying I don't ever work or take my kids to work, but just as the norm, I learned it was better to do that. But you can't do everything on your own. And I have my parents, my in-laws, they have been a huge blessing and a huge help in our life.
Absolutely. And then what would you say if you were sitting down with a woman who was a mom and a business owner, what would you say is your top piece of advice for them on how to run a business with kids or even just work with kids?
Give yourself grace and patience and know that. So I grew up on a dairy farm and we worked with our parents all the time. So we didn't have that separation because my parents, we really couldn't afford it. And that was kind of just part of our lifestyle. And so for me, something I've tried to incorporate some as my kids have gotten older is to have them when they are at work to understand this is part of our life. And the reason that we can do the things that we want and is because of this lifestyle. And I also want to instill them the values that I've learned from growing up watching my parents work. So I think it's a twofold. Don't feel guilty every time that you have to work and your kids might have to sit and wait and be patient because I think there's some really valuable learning lessons there.
Yeah, that's good for me to hear even this morning because before you came over for this video, our little 2-year-old Pierce looked at me and he goes, "Mommy, no work today." And of course I'm like, oh my gosh, But I think it's also healthy for kids to see their parents working. My parents worked full time. We helped them in their business as well too. And I love those memories and instill a lot of values in me. And so similar to, I hope that I can pass it on to Pierce as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, as looking back, we never felt like we missed out or that our parents didn't play with us.
Yeah.
We learned so much respect for them and what they were trying to build. And as we got older, even into high school, we had so much, just work ethic that a lot of other kids our age didn't have. And so it really made me have a different level of respect for my parents.
Yes, absolutely, Laura. Well, ladies, your challenge this week is to not let a current situation sway you away from the dreams you have in your heart. Because will having a business, working full time, and having kids be easy? No, it will never be easy. But you know what it is? It is possible, and it is worth it.
It is.